anxiety medication sometimes for the rest of their life. And I feel like this is one way that we have been failed by mainstream medical, is because anxiety is not a disease. It literally is a symptom. When you get anxious about something, it is because of something else. Something has caused you to be anxious. Anxiety is an effect of something. And I think because we're so focused around kind of band-aiding things and making a great gain, that finding out the root or the core of why someone has anxiety is not really the focus. If you have medication, and I'm not telling you not to take a medication, so let me just say that right now. But if you have anxiety because of a distressed nervous system and you feel like it's not really working, then I may be able to help you a lot with why that is. My name is LK Way. I am a wellness writer for the True Age Now blog, as well as the wellness coach for my own personal brand, Wellhouse. And I want to talk to you about anxiety and its proper role when you have a distressed nervous system. When you have a distressed nervous system, specifically talking about when you're stuck in the fight or flight state. So what does that mean? That means that your body is acting like you're in a state of shock 24/7. When we have a real emergency, what happens is we experience that release of adrenaline, our heart starts beating really fast, our breathing becomes very erratic. We either freeze or we fight, right? That's our natural response, and that's how it's supposed to be when there's a real emergency. But when there's not a real emergency and you're trying to cook dinner, or you're on your way to work, or you're trying to work and your body just busts out, wigging out, that creates a really big problem. The reason why the anxiety medication is so ineffective for a lot of people, and I've heard so many people say this, that it's not effective, and even myself, when I went to get a prescription and I was going to take it because I had so many things happen when I started having a dysregulated nervous system. I had so many symptoms. I had a lot of death in my family. But the reason why I think a lot of people don't take it, and myself, the reason why I didn't even bother with it, is because when I read what it was going to do, I saw that it wasn't even going to get rid of my symptoms. So when you have a dysregulated nervous system, you have a lot of different sensations you feel in your body. Me, I had 25 to 30 different symptoms throughout the duration of having a distressed nervous system. I had put so much distress on my nervous system that 24/7 it was responding like I was in a state of shock, like I was having an emergency. So it's almost like you're chilling and your body just takes off running. Well, that's pretty freaky, right? I mean, imagine you sitting there, you're at work, you're in the middle talking to a customer. Yeah, how are you doing? Yes, I can help you. Or even if you do face-to-face, hi, whoever, talking to your customer, and your body just takes off running. And you're like, why am I running right now? Like, can you turn back around? So I mean, that's how it feels. And I experienced that the very first time in the form of a panic attack. I was just walking around my house doing what I need to do, and it's like, and I'm like, what's going on? And I went to the emergency room because obviously, I mean, you just feel this sudden attack. So you go to the emergency room. That's a natural response. Everything was fine. Went to the urgent care the next day. Everything was fine. So the medication, you get anxiety because you are scared. I got extremely scared because of the symptoms that I was feeling in my body. I felt so many strange symptoms. And the only thing that kept coming up was anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. And I was so baffled by that because I kept telling people, well, it's like, well, I'm not scared of anything. I'm not afraid. Like, I just start feeling these weird sensations and then I get afraid. Like, after when I feel this weird crap, then I get afraid. So can we talk about what's causing the weird crap? But the only thing that come up, anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. And even myself at first, I'm like, because I'm like, anxiety, okay, anxiety. So, but the anxiety was not the problem. The distressed nervous system was the problem. Even when I was sitting there talking to my PCP told me, oh, it's not your nerves. I'm like, okay, well, what is it? And I didn't realize that was false information at the time, but I realized it later as I, of course, continued my prayer life. This is why in my channel I deal with spirit, soul, and body, because you cannot be completely well if you don't acknowledge all parts of your being, right? If you don't engage in the spirit, and you don't pay attention to your soul, your mind, your will, and emotions, and of course you don't take care of your body. So we have to really think about our whole being and what it means to be well with our whole being. So in my prayer time, the Lord told me, like, your parasympathetic system's damaged. I believed that for about a week, and then I dismissed it because I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Again, putting my mind above what I felt the Lord said. No, these issues and things that I feel in my body cannot be nerves because they were so extreme and so overwhelming. Long story short, I end up getting a book by a doctor named Dr. Claire Weeks, who had a distressed nervous system, treated people who had just a distressed nervous system, got them feeling better, and she said the exact same thing, even right down to the point where she used the exact same metaphor that I felt the Lord said to me in my prayer time. I actually wrote it down and I was so upset. I was so distraught. I had so many different symptoms. It was disrupting my daily life. And I'll get more into how it disrupted my daily life in just a moment. But she said, the Lord said, you got to treat it like a broken bone. It heals in stages, right? So this is getting to the core of the problem. See, in mainstream medical, it's not really a thing to get to the core of the problem. It's a thing to push the medication and to pacify the situation for the most part. That's not true of everyone, but that is the general consensus, right? Just kind of get you, patch you up, take the medication, get you on your way, right? But what was happening was that I had a nervous system that needed to be put in a cast, essentially, so it could heal. So let's talk about that. So what the Lord said in my prayer time was, you need to treat it like a broken leg. If you have a broke bone, you know what to do. You put it in a cast and you stay off of it and you allow it to heal, and you understand the different stages that it needs to go through to be healed. But imagine if we didn't know that. Imagine if we didn't understand that you had to put a leg in a cast if you have a broken leg. And you were just walking around on your broke leg and rolling around on the floor, screaming and hollering, totally freaking out because my leg hurts. We would look at you, you would look really crazy. Like, listen, you have a broke leg, put it in a cast. But if you don't understand that's how to treat a broken leg or a broken bone, you're not going to know to do that. And that's the case with the distressed nervous system. It's amazing, but it's not something that's acknowledged like that. It's totally 100% put in one category of mental, which a large part of it is mental, absolutely. But there is a healing that needs to take place, and it's to your nervous system. It's not working properly. It needs to heal. And what you need to do to get it to heal is what is not mainly known. And that's why when you're taking anxiety medication, people are taking medication for anxiety to try to get to deal with the symptoms that they're feeling in their body, right? Because the medication is not going to get rid of the symptoms. You're taking the medication to try to deal with what you're feeling in your body. And if you're not acknowledging, or you know how to treat it, or you know what to do, essentially those symptoms are just going to intensify and get worse, which I'll explain why that happens in just a minute. So you're in a vicious cycle. You're taking medication and you're not getting any better. So a couple of things I want to go back to. I want to talk about some of the things I experienced when I had a distressed nervous system, because I'm sure you are experiencing some of them. But I also want to talk about how you stay in this perpetual state of feeling terrible, even if you're on the medication. So when you're in when you're in a state of shock, or when you're having a real emergency, when the fight or flight is legit and when it's supposed to happen, your body's releasing adrenaline. Your body is bracing you for impact, so to speak. Your heart's beating really fast. Your breathing becomes really strange. You're like, some of us we don't breathe. You stop breathing. You ever been so scared you just stop breathing? Your mind, you're not thinking. Let me analyze the situation. I mean, we can't all remember MacGyver, who used to be able to under pressure see this whole solution in 2.2 seconds. But realistically, we don't really think like that, right? When we have an emergency. And that's natural when emergency comes, because our body's preparing us for a state, bracing for impact. It's preparing us for how to handle the emergency. But when that's not really the case, and we're trying to just do what we need to do every day to focus and to go to work and to deal with our families and our responsibilities, it's very disruptive. And so we get scared, because if you don't do anything about it, it gets worse. So as you get afraid and you're like, oh my God, why am I feeling that? Why do I feel like I can't breathe? Why do my heart beating really fast? Why do I feel dizzy all of a sudden? Whatever the symptom is, your response causes your body to release more adrenaline, and that adrenaline is what causes your body to feel more symptoms. So you're in a cycle, and you're taking medication, right, to deal with the anxiety. And essentially what that medication does, and this is how my doctor explained it when she told me about it, because I was like, so what's this going to do exactly? It's going to get rid of any of it? I'm going to get rid of Any of the symptoms? Got a lot of symptoms. If you get rid of some of them, I'll be all right. And I don't even take medication like that. But I'm like, I just want to knock off some of these or something. She's like, oh, it'll just, what was her words? She said, I want to say she said it'll take the edge, like it'll relax you. It'll take the edge off. Like, and I'm like, so I ain't gonna get rid of nothing. Like, I want to get rid of something, you know? So I'm like, I don't really want to take this if it's not gonna get rid of something, you know? So I didn't even take it. I did, at one point I was prescribed an inhaler because again, that was one of my symptoms, feeling like I couldn't breathe, which I could, but you know, I wasn't being told by my doctor how to deal with the distressed nervous system. Actually, I was told the exact opposite, that it wasn't my nerves. So it just, at one point it got so bad, I didn't even know how to use the inhaler. My anxiety was so bad that I couldn't even use the inhaler. Like, my hand was shaking when I put the inhaler to my face. And then I was scared. I'm like, what if, you know, I do it wrong and I put too much of this stuff in my body? I was just like, I had such bad anxiety because I was afraid I didn't know what was happening in my body. So let's talk about what to do about it. You know, your medication's not working, you know, and you're just tired of the sensations you feel in your body because you have a dysregulated nervous system. So let's talk about some of the symptoms that you may feel, and then we can talk about what you will do about it. Some of the symptoms I felt, like I said, I had 25 to 30 different symptoms throughout the ordeal. The most agonizing was a constant air hunger. All day long, I felt like I couldn't breathe, even though I could. I couldn't talk through conversations. It got so bad that I had to think about breathing. I had to think before I breathe. I had to think about breathing before I breathe. That was so torturous. And I remember I was sitting down trying to read my kids a bedtime story, and I couldn't even tell the story because I was like this. I was like, and I was trying to hide the fact that I felt like I couldn't breathe because I just wanted to tell a story, you know, and read to them. And I remember that at one point the Lord said, sing. So I sung, which is interesting because I'm like, I feel like I can't even talk. So you want me to sing? And that actually did help in that moment with me feeling like I had to think about breathing. But I had the constant air hunger, I had the heart palpitations, I had digestive issues, I had almost got orgophobia, where I couldn't go out the house because my legs were always shaky and I was scared I was gonna fall. I felt very unstable in my walking. Like my walking felt like I was walking on wobbly legs all the time. I'm not gonna possibly remember all my symptoms right here in the video, but I'm trying to give you the ones that were most disruptors. My cognitive ability was very scary because I couldn't focus on things. So when I watched TV, I couldn't follow the story of the television. I couldn't follow the story. And I'm not talking about those movies where you got to be like all involved and pay attention. And if you turn away for a second, you're lost. I'm talking about little 30-minute sitcoms, like, you know, like Reba. At one point I was watching Reba, you know, I couldn't even follow the show, but for some reason I was just drawn to it. It was funny. And I remember, and I couldn't even laugh. I remember saying to myself, oh, that's funny. But I couldn't get out a laugh because I was so miserable with how I felt inside of my body. I couldn't laugh. But I remember knowing like, that's funny. I can't laugh at it right now, but I know it's funny. These are some of the things that you may be feeling if you have a distressed nervous system. I couldn't stand being in a line. Being in the car for more than like 10 minutes made me feel like I was going to just lose it. I couldn't stand being still, right? That's part of that anxiety. I had intrusive thoughts. I had the most terrible intrusive thoughts. You know, what if this happens? What if that happens? Oh, you're going to fall. You're going to faint. You're not going to wake up. You know, like all these different thoughts that I would have. Those are demonic. And the whole thing in itself is not demonic. But whenever we're in a weakened state, demonic entities, they take advantage of that, right? And so they do. And so if you're experiencing intrusive thoughts, that is because you're in a weakened state. And what is the nature of the enemy? The nature of the enemy is to kick you when you're down. So although, you know, all the things that you're experiencing aren't demonic, the demonic kingdom or the kingdom of darkness will take advantage of us when we're in a weak state if we let them, right? So those are some of the things I experienced. So I know some of you may be taking anxiety to deal with the intrusive thoughts, right? Sorry, I don't know why I did that. That has a different meaning than what I was trying to convey. But the thoughts that you're thinking in your mind, the thoughts that you have up here, they sometimes prescribe anxiety medication, or medication to deal with those intrusive thoughts. And the thing is that that's not going to work, in my opinion. In my opinion, that's not going to work. I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not allowed to really say things like that. So I have to say it that way. But think about it. You know, Just because you get dumbed down to where you're too tired to think doesn't mean it's really getting to the root of the problem, right? That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to get to my next point because it's going to help with that as well. So what do you do about it, right? What do you do when you have such bad anxiety because you have a distressed nervous system? You're not able to live your life regularly because you're so afraid of what you might feel or how you might respond to what you're feeling in your body, that you've probably been told it's all in your head, because I've been told that. My doctor is like, it's not your nerves. And that was a medical professional that told me that. And I was listening to that advice at one point. And that was the worst advice, because that's what made me even more scared. Because I'm like, oh my God, I can trust my own mind. But I know what I'm feeling. I know what I feel is real. And I think that's what ends people in the mental ward, is because they're like, oh, that's not real. You're not really feeling that. But it's like, well, I am feeling this. And you just kind of go with what they say because you're not the professional. I mean, that's what I was doing. I was going with what she said. But thank God I have a prayer life, and the Lord was telling me something completely opposite. He is saying it is your nerves. As a matter of fact, it's specifically this part of your nervous system. And this is what you need to do. So bringing me to my last point, what he said that I did for a little while and totally got off of it. But he said you need to change the way you respond to what you're feeling. And I did that for a little while, then I totally stopped doing it because I got scared, and the sensations were so extreme and so immense and so intense that that went out the window, and I had way more emergency room visits. But ultimately, the way that I got out of it, and I have a course that I made because I saw firsthand how inefficient the help is and how really expensive some of the help is. Like, it's good help, but it's kind of pricey. But if you can afford, $3,000-$4,000, spend it. Your health, you're worth it. Your health is worth it, right? But I have a course that it's not that expensive, but it's still very helpful. And I basically put in it what I wished I would have had. So basically what I had to do is I had to change the way I was responding. Exactly what the Lord spoke in my prayer time to my heart that I totally ignored because I started feeling all these other symptoms. But eventually I came back around to that when I was reading a book by Dr. Claire, Hope and Help for Your Nerves, where she said the exact same thing. And I'm like, wow, so this is what I need to do. And I began to do it, and I had to get over the fact that it's uncomfortable. When you have a distressed nervous system, the recovery is uncomfortable. And one of the things I had to get over was, how long is this going to take? I had to get over that. It's going to take as long as it takes. And once I stopped focusing on how long it was going to take, I was good. All right. So if you're taking medication for anxiety, I'm not saying don't take your medication, but I am saying to you, maybe this is something that you might want to consider why it's not working, right? As a wellness coach and a wellness writer, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, but I am someone who's a resource for you as you go on your wellness journey, as you do what you need to do to be in your best health. I am definitely a resource to take into consideration. I'm not ever going to try to replace anyone's doctor or tell them not to go to the doctor or tell them not to take medication. I'm not going to tell you that, right? But I will say, if it's not working and you've been taking it or you're getting worse, consider the things that I'm saying. Consider changing the way you respond, right, to what you're feeling. Talk to your doctor. Like, well, if I stop taking this, what's going to happen? Maybe take less and ask them, if I could take less, what happens? And then try what I'm saying. Take what I'm saying into consideration. Listen, I had asked my doctor for medication. I had some family members pass away when I was going through this. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take medication. I just wanted the pain to go away, whether it just takes something away. One of the symptoms, anything, like take something. I had so many different symptoms. I just wanted something to go away. And when I realized it wasn't going to help, I'm like, what the heck am I going to take this for? Just to take it? No, thank you. So I didn't take it. But again, this is for you to, take what I'm saying and do what you feel you need to do, right? Pray about it and do what you have peace in your heart, because I'm not going to sit up here and never say, no, don't take your medication. Don't take it. I don't feel that's wise to tell people that, especially not being a medical professional, not knowing what they got going on. I do believe in supernatural healing. I've experienced it, but still, I do believe in operating with wisdom. So that concludes my video for today. I really hope this was helpful for you. If you've been taking medication and you're just kind of looking for something to help you out, maybe it's not working the way you want it to work or whatever. Hopefully this video has shed some light for you on the situation. If you're experiencing a lot of symptoms and you've been experiencing them for a while, you want to consider taking my course. It is a 7-week course. It's 2 parts. One part talks about how to stop the symptoms, and the second part talks about how to strengthen your nervous system, because once you stop the symptoms, you have to strengthen your nervous system. That's something I found out the hard way. But like I said, I put everything together that I wish I would have had when I was going through this, right? So my name's LK Way. I'm wishing you an awesome day today. Please share the video with someone that you think will benefit from it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, my channel, for more information about how you can be well and stay well. Take care.